You are listening to Chesterton Radio at chestertonradio.com.
The world's great novel. The work of a man who wrote prose as if it were poetry, endowing each phrase with imaginative meaning, and using to the fullest the shades and gradations of the human character. NBC's University of the Air brings you the first episode in a 4-part version of George Meredith's Diana of the Crossways. Another in our series of books that live the world's great novel.
The time, the second quarter of the 19th century. The very air was festive that night. All of Erin was celebrating the return of a British hero of Irish blood from his victorious Indian campaign. Across the miles, over field and bogland, the toast was the same.
Hi, Lord Larian, God bless him.
Aye, he's an honor to the old country.
His Ireland gives England her soldiers, her generals.
Right, George, right. And did you know that Lord Larian insisted on an Irish regiment?
Aye, he'd never march to battle and they not handy, because when he struck hard.
And he has a wound in his right leg to prove it.
And 2 fingers off his left hand. He bled for England to show her what Irishmen are when they're well treated.
To Lord Larian, God bless him.
Lord Larian!
And while the deeds of the hero were being recited and toasted through the land by his rustic countrymen, a ball was being conducted in his honor in the assembly rooms of the capital city. The fine old warrior stood at the upper end of the long saloon, happy in passing the troops of animated ladies under review. His aide, Captain Sir Lucan Dunstane, stood beside him, now and again recalling to the general's mind the names of the people who passed by.
Lord and Lady Presby. And the couple just entering the archway to the right.
Never mind them, Lucan. Who is she?
She, General?
That lovely creature in white with the raven hair.
Oh, she is beautiful.
Yes.
But I do not recollect her. She's nodding to my wife. I shall ask Lady Dunstane about her, and when you join us presently, I may be able to tell you more of her.
I trust this first social evening in Ireland has not over-fatigued you, Lady Dunstane. May I have the honor of sitting with you a while?
The honor is mine. But confess now, General, it is your curiosity which has brought you to me. You are perishing to know more about the fair enchantress of the evening.
Well...
Let me hear that you admire her. It pleases me.
I do. Who wouldn't?
She crossed the channel expressly to dance here tonight in your honor.
She makes everything in the room dust around a blazing jewel.
She makes a poet of a soldier, certainly.
Why does it please you, Lady Dunstane, that I admire her?
She is my dearest friend. Younger than I, as might well be seen. I nursed her when she was an infant. My father and Dan Murrian were chums.
Daughter of the famous Dan Murrian?
Yes. We were parted by my marriage in the voyage to India. She is 18 and in the market, General.
My dear. My poorest subaltern is richer than I in the wherewithal to bid for such prizes. What is her full name?
Diana Antonia Murrian. Tony to me. Diana to the world.
And honest Irish.
Oh, she's Irish.
I see she's coming to greet you. I'll step aside a bit, Lady Dunstane, so as not to intrude upon your first meeting.
And I shan't forget you're waiting to be introduced, General.
Emmy, my darling Emmy.
Tony.
Oh, Emmy. I wondered if we'd ever be together again. How I've missed you.
I should not have come but for the hope of seeing you here, my dear Tony.
Emmy, tell me, you're not still ill?
One dance has tired me. Tony, you are to perform a ceremonious bow to Lord Larian.
Oh, let us chatter a while first.
Time for that later. He is the hero of the evening and waits to meet you. Lord Larian.
Lady Dunstane.
Miss Murrian. Lord Larian.
Your servant, Miss Murrian. I was a great admirer of your father.
And I am a great admirer of you.
Ah. Then perhaps I might presume to ask you to chat through a quadrille with me.
You decline to make any of us women proud by dancing tonight, General?
Ah, I'm afraid my legs have seen too much battle.
Emma, my dear.
Yes, Lucan?
I wish to introduce a fellow Harrovian of old days, Mr. Thomas Redworth.
Mr. Redworth?
This is an honor I've long awaited, Lady Dunstane.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you. Mr. Redworth is our weather prophet, a meteorologist.
Oh?
You remember in India my pointing to you his name in a newspaper letter on the subject?
Indeed, I do recall. I remember Lucan saying, Mr. Redworth,
Wonderful. Oh, yes.
that your prophecies could always be counted on for the cricketing days.
Oh, thank you.
The weather and women have some resemblance, they say. Is it true that he who reads the one can read the other?
Oh, I beg pardon. Women. Weather and women.
Yes.
No, the 1 point more variable in women makes all the difference.
The General seems to be enjoying himself immensely.
Yes, as would most any man who... Lady Dunstane, may I ask who she is?
Diana Merion, my dearest friend. Would you like an introduction?
I should indeed.
It shall be arranged.
Does she live in England?
England or anywhere she is taken in. She will live, I hope, chiefly with me when we are settled at Copsley. And we shall always welcome you as a guest, Mr. Redworth.
You may be sure I shall take advantage of your invitation, Lady Dunstane.
You seem to have enjoyed yourself with the General, Tony.
Oh, my dream of a true soldier, Emmy.
He is a noble old man.
Oh, don't say old man, Emmy. With his uniform and his height and his grey head, he's like a glorious October day just before the brown leaves fall.
You still write verse, Tony?
A little. But someday I shall turn my hand to novels. Oh, Emmy, it's so good to be with you again.
I know. There are so many things to ask you. What has been done with the old Crossways?
The house, you know, became mine after Dada died. It's all I have. If only I could afford to, I would evict the tenants. They can't have my feeling for the place where I was born.
Are they wealthy?
Tolerably. The name is Warwick, and so far as I can understand, keep the place to be near the Sussex Downs. They've a favourite nephew who likes to ride.
You've not met them?
No, though I've an engagement to visit them.
Are you often in the world? Dinner, dances?
People are kind to me.
Any proposals?
Nibbles?
Quite heart-free?
Absolutely. And may I be for another 10 years.
I'm not sure you can escape it so long.
Oh, Emmy.
Supper has been announced, and already a host of your admirers are drawing near to ask the permission to escort you.
I know. 'Tis a problem at times.
Have you promised any of these gentlemen the supper hour?
No.
Then go with Mr. Redworth, whom you danced with earlier. He is a splendid person, and you will escape the crush.
If you wish it, Emmy. And I think I should enjoy it myself.
After the memorable ball, Diana Merion spent many weeks visiting in the homes of other friends. And when she arrived at the Dunstane estate, she entertained her friend with accounts of her visit.
And the Pettigrews were as cordial as always, Emmy, and they send you their best.
I am most anxious to hear of your visit at the Crossways, Tony.
It was very hard for me, Emmy, seeing strange masters in my home, but they were kind. Mr. Augustus Warwick, the nephew I told you of, entertained me a great deal.
What is he like, Tony?
Oh, rather a gentlemanly official, 34. Fearfully spoiled by his aunt and uncle, I fear. He's a barrister, but he doesn't practice, and that's really all I can seem to say about him.
You look troubled, dear.
Not troubled. I actually haven't a care in the world. But there's a weariness in constantly wandering, like a leaf off the tree. Not having any place to really call my home. Oh, don't let my silly prattle upset you, darling. It's only a mood. It'll pass.
Beg pardon, madam.
Guess with us.
Mr. Thomas Redworth has arrived.
Oh, yes, I forgot to tell you, Emmy. Mr. Redworth and I are going to take a long walk this afternoon.
Mr. Redworth again? He calls quite often, Tony.
Now, don't use that knowing look with me, Emmy, because you're wrong.
He is an excellent man.
He is indeed. But I'm afraid we're a hopeless couple, Emmy. We've become so friendly.
Diana stayed at Copsley through the fall and winter, and the visits of Thomas Redworth became more and more frequent. One evening, as Lady Dunstane sat with her husband, Sir Lucan broached the subject.
You know, my dear, Diana appears to be meditating upon Mr. Redworth.
She insists, Lucan, that there is only friendship between them.
But she quotes him at every chance upon every conceivable subject. No doubt she admires him greatly, and certainly the frequency of his visits shows that he...
I'm tempted to wonder, Lucan. Naturally, I feel that any man could not resist being attracted to Tony. And yet, have you noticed how often he seems abstracted in her presence?
Oh, now that you mention it, yes. Extraordinary.
And frequently when they do talk, he disagrees with Tony. It perplexes me. But frankly, I feel Diana could make a more brilliant match than with Mr. Redworth.
He's a capital fellow.
Yes, but he could not give her the wealth and position a few others could.
Well, I scarce feel we need fret about it, Emma. Diana is still very young.
Well, I shouldn't have given it a thought 6 months ago. But of late, Diana has become restless of, as she puts it, constantly wandering like a leaf off a tree.
With the return of spring, Diana prepared to leave Copsley for another round of visits. As she waited with Sir Lucan by the valley road to meet the coach, a man on horseback approached them.
Oh, Bonnie.
Well, Redworth, this is an unexpected pleasure.
It is indeed. Good afternoon, Miss Marion.
Good afternoon, Mr. Redworth.
I was just now on my way up to Copsley.
We shall be happy of a visit from you. And now that Diana is leaving us, we shall feel quite alone.
Leaving, Miss Marion?
For the summer.
We've missed you these last few weeks.
I've missed Copsley. But I've been absorbed in railways these days.
Oh, you've not invested money in that novel venture?
I have. All I possess.
Oh, I say, I hope you realize the precariousness of such a speculation. You might well be ruined within the year.
I take that chance. But on the other hand, I might within the year have a tolerable fortune. Miss Marion.
Yes, Mr. Redworth.
I want to... I was wondering where you might be written to during the summer, in case of my wishing to send you any news.
If you send letters to Copsley, I shall be sure to receive them. I'm always in touch with Lady Dunstane.
The long summer months, that for many held only idle living, were filled with urgent business matters for Thomas Redworth. 'Twas a Saturday afternoon in early autumn when he again visited Copsley for an appointment with Lady Dunstane. He found her at her writing desk, pen in hand, but paper untouched.
Oh, I have disturbed you, Lady Dunstane. Please continue your letter.
I scarcely know how to write what I must. I would rather chat for half an hour first.
As you wish.
I was highly flattered by your note, Mr. Redworth. Flattered that you wanted to ask my advice about a matter.
I felt you were the one person I could come to, Lady Dunstane.
Would you care to discuss the subject now?
Lady Dunstane, as you know, I have become a railway speculator.
Yes?
And because of the strides being made, I stand a chance to realize quite a bit from the speculation. Lady Dunstane, I come to you now for counsel. I'm not held among my acquaintances to be a marrying man, as it is called.
You mean you involve no one but yourself in this venture?
Still, the day may come. That is, my view of marriage is that no man should ask a woman to be his wife unless he is well able to support her in the comforts, and not to say the luxury she is accustomed to.
Mr. Redworth, I am rather in a mist. At first you seemed concerned with business matters, and now... Pray specify the exact point upon which you do me the honor of consulting me.
Well, it is, if you think me justified at this time in asking a lady to share my lot.
Why not?
Then I may write your head at once.
Tell me, is it Diana?
Diana Marion.
Oh.
She's in love with someone else?
In love? I shall read you the letter I received from her this morning.
My own Emmy, I've been asked in marriage by Mr. Warwick and have accepted him. I've decided it is the wisest thing a waif can do. We're to live at the Crossways for 4 months of the year, so I shall have Dada in his best days and all my youngest dreams surrounding me. my old home for a new one. Send your blessings to your turn.
You see, not a word of love in it. The wisest thing a waif can do. She sounds as if she had grown desperate. Why did you not speak before? You might have won her.
I had no right before.
Oh, women are not puppets. It is good for them to rough it a little in the early days of marriage.
But now I am too late.
I fear so.
Then I must make up my mind to it. I think I'll take a walk.
Yes, do. And, Mr. Redworth?
Yes?
This will be our secret.
I thank you with all my heart, Lady Dunstane.
During their bridal tour of Italy, Diana had tried to foster a little bloom of sentiment for her husband. But by the time they paid their first visit to Copsley, it was plain to Lady Dunstane that Diana merely wore the mask and played the part of a dutiful wife in an attempt to make the best of a poor bargain.
It was a pleasure to hear Augustus's remarks on Italian painting, Emmy. He's quite an authority.
A smattering of knowledge here and there. Nothing, really.
Well, I'm sure you must have been delighted with Italy, Mr. Warwick.
Quite so. However, I find England is never so much with me as when I am away from it.
How is that?
Simply that we English are the aristocracy of Europe.
Oh, do you not think that somewhat rash, Augustus?
Pardon me, I do not, my dear. I feel below my element anywhere but here.
Will you live part of the time at the Crossways?
Oh, yes. Augustus has promised me he will never ask me to sell it. He loves the Crossways almost as much as I do.
I think it has a quaint charm, Diana. However, your love for it is rather beyond reason. It's really just a big, drafty house. We shall spend a great deal of time in London.
Will you go into some sort of business?
Augustus is prepared for most any position, Emmy. He knows the law completely.
However, I believe that to live as a true gentleman according to the right standards is so consuming it leaves little time for one to devote to professional pursuits.
Well, Emma.
Yes, Lucan?
Warwick's a gentlemanly fellow, has a fine taste in wine.
Lucan, there is no use pretending.
Huh?
He is like a house, locked up and empty. Empty even of ghosts.
Exactly.
How could my beautiful and brilliant Tony have committed such a rashness? The man is idle, and Tony despises idleness in men. I can excuse her submerging herself to give him a better advantage in our company, but I cannot excuse her for having married him.
Two years went by. Thomas Redworth was in America, carving up that hemisphere with railroads. Lady Dunstane had become a confirmed invalid, confined to Copsley. And Diana Warwick was a famous figure in London society.
A witty woman is a treasure. A witty beauty is a power. Such a combination is Diana Warwick.
I must admit, I was at first startled that such a beautiful creature could talk. And then to find that what she said had made the rest of the company seem complete dullards.
Did you hear what she said at dinner last evening of romance? The young who avoid that region escape the title of fool at the cost of a celestial crown.
And of poetry. Those that have souls meet their fellows there.
Her dinners are the most celebrated in the city. They're famous from all walks of life. Cluster to them.
Lord Dannisburgh, Minister of the Cabinet, was known to be one of the admirers of Mrs. Warwick. For a while, he was considered only one of a crowd observing a star. But when Augustus Warwick found it necessary to seek a position, and the eminent minister gave him an appointment, the hunting pack society of London had a quarry. No great scandal had occurred for several months. The world was in want of it. Stories of Lord Dannisburgh and Mrs. Warwick whipped the hot pursuit.
Tony, I was beginning to fear you would never return to see me.
Oh, Emmy, I never meant to neglect you.
Oh, you haven't, Tony. But I have wanted to talk with you.
I think I know what about.
Then I can speak frankly. Are you altogether cautious, Tony?
You refer to Lord Dannisburgh?
Yes.
Emmy, he is near what father's age would have been, and is, I think, next to Dada and you, my dearest friend. And unless I am to suppose that marriage is the end of me, I must keep him among my treasures.
You see him often?
Almost daily, though not for long. He's busy in session now. But as long as he does me the honor to esteem my poor portion of brains by coming to me for what he's good enough to call my counsel, I shall let the world wag its tongue.
Are you not troubled by what people say?
No. I've never been happier. Never shall be. He's the kindest of souls.
But is this friendship wise, Tony? I am thinking only of you.
We women are the verbs passive of the alliance. And if we take to activity with the best intentions, we conjugate a frightful disturbance. I have the misfortune to know I was born unactive. I take my chance.
Lucan.
Oh, yes, my dear. Could I get you something? Another pillow, a ring for tea?
Lucan, you know what it is I want.
Huh?
News of Tony. I received 3 letters from her the first week after she returned to London, and now 3 weeks have elapsed without a word.
Oh, it's very unlike Diana.
Lucan, you cannot hide things from me so easily as that. You were in London yesterday. I know society there must have some word.
I feared that speaking of it would only make you more ill.
Anything is preferred to this uncertainty. Please tell me what you learned.
Oh, very well, my dear. When I first reached London, I came across one of those scandalmonger journals. It was a few weeks old.
Tony's name was in it?
No, not a name, but it mentioned Mr. and Mrs. W. and a distinguished peer of the realm. The paragraph was brief, but they worded it very cleverly with a flavor and a promise of more to come.
Go on.
Well, the minute I attended a few gatherings, I found that the names were spoken openly, swept from mouth to mouth, gathering matter as they flew.
Did you not try to see Diana?
Emma.
I want to know everything.
I went immediately to her door and was informed that the mistress of the house was absent.
Did they say where?
The servant was exceedingly cold and grave. He said her address was unknown. And later, I heard that Warwick had served her with a process.
When Lady Dunstane awakened the next morning, there was a letter from Diana on her pillow. It read,
He has no case against me without bribing witnesses. However, I leave the case and him to the world. It is a guiltless kind of suicide to bury myself abroad. But I cannot face the world. At the trial, yes. But not where I am expected to smile and sparkle, lest I incur suspicion if I show a sign of oppression. I abhor the part of an actress. I should do it too well and destroy my soul in the performance. Is a good name before such a world as this worth that sacrifice? From whatever place I go, I will write constantly. But I'm henceforth dead to the rest of the world. This letter and I leave London by different routes. I long to see you, but I must depart quickly.
Lady Dunstane read and reread the letter. After many hours, her invalid sensitiveness cast herself into Tony's feelings.
She will visit the Crossways again before leaving it forever. I am sure of it. If I could but talk with her. She must now throw her life away. If Lucan had not gone back to London, I could send him there with a letter. But by the time he gets back, she will have gone.
Madam.
Oh, yes, Withers.
A visitor, madam.
I cannot entertain now.
It is Mr. Thomas Redworth.
Redworth? Back from America? Show him up at once with us. I understand how she shrinks from playing a part and going about having to behave as if nothing were in the air. She is leaving the country.
Oh, but that is wrong.
Wrong. I know. Our bravest have an impulse to run, but she must not, or she will live with it for the rest of her life.
She must be stopped. You feel she is at the Crossways?
So positive that if Lucan were here, I should send him there immediately with a letter. But he is away.
Have you a stout horse in the stables?
You remember the mare Bertha? You've ridden her.
The mare will do.
Will you find your way?
Yes, she has often pointed out to me from your ridges where the Crossways lies. I shall find it. I have 3 hours of daylight and a moon to rise.
You understand?
Everything, I fancy.
If she is there?
I engaged to deliver a letter to the Crossways tonight, and I pledge myself to do all that is humanly possible to bring her back to Copsley.
Diana of the Crossways by George Meredith is one of the world's great novels, brought to you each week by the NBC University of the Air. Listen next week to the second episode of Diana of the Crossways. And remember that countless fine books are to be had in your local public library. To enhance your enjoyment of this series, we recommend the Handbook of the World's Great Novels, which you may obtain by sending 25 cents to World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. That's Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27. Diana of the Crossways is adapted for radio by Agnes Eckhart. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom, and the orchestra was directed by Bernard Berquist. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. Geraldine Kay is heard as Diana. Lady Emma is played by Alma Potts. Sir Lucan by Donald Gallagher. Thomas Redworth by Larry Alexander. Lord Larian by Sherman Marks. And Augustus Warwick by Sidney Breeze. Others were Hope Summers, George Kluge, and Duke Watson. The narrator was Jonathan Howell. This is John Conrad. This program comes to you from Chicago and is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. The Community Chest needs your contribution. The goal for 1948 is $168 million. That's a lot of money. And if the goal is to be reached, we must all give as much as we can. 1/2 of the families in every community receive direct benefits from Community Chest Red Feather Services. And the other half, they benefit directly from improved community conditions. A contribution will help the organizations that stand ready to help you when you need help. Maternity clinics, hospitals, homes for the aged, the Salvation Army, and youth organizations such as the Boy Scouts, the YMCA, and the YWCA. So be generous with your dollars. Give as much as you can. Give to the Community Chest. Everybody benefits. Everybody gives. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
This is Chesterton Radio, your home for podcasts of works by G.K. Chesterton, plus drama, comedy, mystery, science fiction, big bands, and much more. The soundtrack to your Chesterton day at chestertonradio.com.
A novel of such intellectual style and vigorous analysis that its characterizations are as brilliant and mature today as when the book was written in 1885. NBC's University of the Air brings you the second episode in a 4-part version of George Meredith's Diana of the Crossways. Another in our series of books that live, the world's great novel.
Friendship between Lady Emma Dunstane and Diana Warwick began when Diana was a small girl, and in the following years it deepened into a lasting affection. So it was that when a letter came from Diana, stating that her jealous and suspicious husband had served her with a protest, and that she intended to leave the country, Lady Dunstane was distraught and at a loss as to how to help. At this moment that her maid presented her with the card of Mr. Thomas Redworth, just returned from America. After their greetings, Lady Dunstane unburdened herself to Mr. Redworth.
Mr. Warwick has chosen to act on vile suspicion. We both know that Diana, or Tony, as I've always called her, is a brilliant woman. She has many friends. Lord Dannisburgh was one of them. But friendship is all there was between them. I could hold my hand in the fire and swear it.
How is Mrs. Warwick taking it?
Well, it is only natural that she has a horror of facing a public scandal. Lord Dannisburgh, being Minister of the Cabinet, will cause more talk than usual in a society that dotes on scandal.
Oh, yes.
My poor Tony writes of the hatefulness of having to act as if nothing were in the air and that she is leaving the country.
No, but she should not run away.
Of course she should not.
Do you think she's gone already?
No, I don't think so. At this moment, I see her at the Crossways.
Oh, a child at home.
Yes. Tony is one of the women who burn to give last kisses to the things they love. And if I were well enough, I should go for her myself, or I'd send my husband if you are not in London.
Have you a stout horse in the stables?
The mare, Bertha, you've ridden her.
The mare will do. I engaged to deliver a letter from you to the Crossways tonight.
As Thomas Redworth sped across the countryside toward the Crossways, memories of the years that he had known Diana Warwick passed across his mind. The night he first met her at a Dublin ball when she was the radiant Diana Murrian. He had fallen in love with her that night, but delayed to ask for her hand because he felt he was not able to give her the luxuries she deserved. Delayed until it was too late, and she rashly married another man, a man undeserving of her in every way. After 6 hours of riding, he came to a dark mass of building with the moon behind it, the Crossways. But the windows were all blind. No smoke rose from the chimneys.
It looks deserted, but I'll try the bell. Lady Dunstane was wrong. She did not come here. We've made a luckless mission, Bertha. A window.
Who is it?
Thomas Redworth. I came to see Mrs. Warwick. Mrs. Warwick.
Had I known it was you. Please, come in.
Yes, thank you.
Danvers,
Yes, madam.
scour the kitchen for firewood.
Yes, madam.
Let us go into the sitting room. You're cold. Empty houses are colder than out of doors. You shall soon have a fire. Please be seated.
Thank you.
I need not ask. You've come from Lady Dunstane. Is she well?
She is deeply anxious.
When did you return from America?
2 days back.
You have been very successful in America?
Successful? Oh, perhaps. We exclude extremes in our calculations of the still problematical.
I'm sure you always have faith in your calculations.
My calculations are human. I am as much of a fool as other men. More.
Oh, no.
I hope I may not have to say so tonight.
You have a letter for me?
I have.
I already divine its contents.
Can you resist Lady Dunstane's appeal to you?
I must, if her appeal is what I think it is.
She is not in a condition to bear a refusal. You will pardon me, Mrs. Warwick.
Fully.
I venture to offer merely practical advice. You have thought of it all, but have not felt it. In these cases, the one thing to do is to make a stand and prove your innocence. Lady Dunstane has a clear head. She would urge you to stay and face these absurd accusations.
My husband has commenced the action. Let him carry it out. I decline to meet his charges. I despise them. If my friends have faith in me, and they may, I want nothing more.
Well, I won't talk platitudes about the world, but can none of us afford to have it against us? Consider a moment. To your friends, you are the same Diana Merriam they knew, and they will not suffer an injury to your good name without a struggle. But if you fly, you make it more difficult for us to defend you.
No. Go I must. Emma saw I might come to the Crossways, but no one but myself can see the wisdom of my holding aloof in contempt of this baseness.
It comes to this. The blow aimed at you in your absence will strike that one who is your dearest friend, Lady Dunstane, and strike her mortally.
Then I say it is terrible to have a friend.
Friendship, I fancy, means one heart between two. I shall leave you now, Mrs. Warwick. Night is a calm advisor. But let me presume to come again in the morning. But I dare not go back without you.
Diana's brain was a steam wheel through the night. Everything that could be thought of was tossed back and forth. But in the morning, the fight was over.
Yes, Mr. Redworth. I will go back to Copsley with you.
Redworth hired a postilion, and by late evening, Diana and Lady Dunstane were sitting together.
You will tell me I've taken the right road, Emmy. I doubt it, but the road is taken, and here I am.
I have not praised you enough for coming. But my own dear girl, you never could have allowed this infamous charge to be undefended.
Why not? I've an odd apathy as to my character. What does it matter? I should have worked for my bread. I had thoughts of America. I fancy I can write. And Americans, one hears, are gentle to women. At least more gentle than London.
Ah, Tony, there's the looking back. And of all women, you.
Well, perhaps once on foreign soil, I might have looked back and seen my whole self, not shattered as I feel now. Perhaps that was what I was running away for. I don't know. Since the blow, I've been bewildered.
Has he
proof? What with him would pass for proof. He broke open my desk and took my letters from Lord Dannisburgh.
Oh, horrible. But the letters?
Anyone might read them. They are letters, none very long, some 2 short sentences he wrote at spare moments during sessions of Parliament. It was the friendship of a man for a woman half his age. I had no thought of loving or being loved, nor did he. It is a singular fact I've not known what this love is that they talk about. I must own, I think it hard.
It is hard. I understand. Tony, I beg you to make my house your own.
I will come to you if ever I need money to keep my head up. But I cannot stay with you, Emmy. If I'm to fight my battle, I must be seen. So my field is London, and I want to be independent.
Independent, yeah?
I should like to hire a suite of rooms where I can begin to write, earning bread. Ink is my opium, and the pen my worker. He must dig up gold for me.
So Diana Warwick went to London and made a new life for herself in a small apartment far removed from the fashionable section of the town. After she'd been established for a month, Lady Dunstane came on a visit and to inspect the rooms.
You really like this life in lodgings, Tony?
I do, yes.
But there's stiff furniture and narrow rooms. And that small fireplace.
Ah, but Emmy, what a pleasure it is to walk against smoky sunsets or in welcoming fogs. An atom of the crowd. I can eat, walk, and work when I like. And I am working.
But this life is so different.
In this life, Emmy, I begin to learn something of the bigger world outside the one I know. And I crush my mincing tastes. Do you know, the less ignorant I become, the more considerate I am for the ignorance of others. So I win advantage from the trifles I have to endure. They are really trifles. And I should once have thought them mountains.
The day of Diana's trial came closer, and as much as she loathed to play a part, she knew it was necessary for her to be seen in the social world. Now that she had decided to face the fight, She had to show by her actions that she was blameless. The first dinner party was aristocratic, easy to encounter. The whole list were friends and admirers of Diana. The witty Mrs. Warwick, of whom wit was expected, had only to open her mouth to set the group laughing.
Oh, what a gem of humor. Mrs. Warwick, I must have you at my table for a small dinner this day week.
You're very kind, Lady Pennant.
The gathering should be incomplete without you. You will come.
Happily.
The Marquis is dying to make your acquaintance, and I beg you to repeat all the clever sayings of this evening to him. He says you must be the salt in the desert.
If I am the salt in the desert, you are the spring, Lady Pennant.
How clever. I must put that down in my book.
Dined at Lady Crane's evening last. Mrs. Warwick there. A charming woman, you know. Writing a novel, too.
A small supper at Lady Escot's. Wasn't going until I heard the brilliant Mrs. Warwick was tend.
It was at the Duchess of Robert's. The men were so enchanted with Mrs. Warwick's conversation, they declined to break with the ladies for liqueur after dinner.
She was at the Princess Perelia's first ball of the season, and though she declined to dance, she had her circle. As distasteful as the role was to her, Diana played her part well. There were few in the social world of London who were not willing to support her. And the same week that the proof sheets of her first little volume were received, the plaintiff in the suit involving her name was adjudged not to have proved his charge. Yes, her husband's suit was dismissed as groundless. It was midwinter when Dame Gossip, who keeps the exotic world alive with her fanning whispers, related that the lovely Mrs. Warwick had left England with Lord and Lady Escott for a voyage in the Mediterranean. It was in Egypt that Thomas Redworth joined the Escott party for a short vacation.
Egypt has a soothing effect, Mr. Redworth. Its ancient vastness makes one's own problems shrink in comparison.
Surely you have not brought your own worries with you on this vacation, Mrs. Warwick.
It is hard to leave a part of one behind. Oh, yes, I'm out of the public flames. But I have a victory of ashen laurels. The angers and jealousies are past now. Still, I must live with the thought of a failure.
I have never presumed to mention it before because I feel you do not want sympathy. And yet, you have had mine. You are a woman capable of so much...
Love? I do not know it, and I'm sure I never can.
Oh, but
I'm the Diana of coldness, preferring friendship. I can be the friend of men. And it is for that reason I turn so trustingly to you, Mr. Redworth. You can be the friend of women.
I thank you for your friendship, Mrs. Warwick. It is my most treasured possession.
And now, Mr. Redworth, tell me more of Mr. Percy Dacier, whom you say we shall meet in Cairo. The very fact that he is the nephew of my dear friend Lord Dannisburgh interests me in him.
In her next letter to Lady Dunstane, Diana wrote of meeting the Honourable Percy Dacier.
He is a cabinet minister, and that always to me seems the most enviable place a young man can occupy. He strikes me as a brilliant young charioteer in the heat of the race, watchful for his chance to push to the front. There seems to be an unofficial engagement between him and an heiress, a Miss Constance Asper, niece of a mighty shipowner. Money, fabulous, and necessary to a younger son devoured with ambition.
But in spite of his rumored engagement, the Honourable Percy Dacier was still with the escort party when they reached Rovio, an Italian village not far from the Lake of Lugano.
Mr. Dacier,
Mrs. Warwick.
Did you think you had this glorious morning all to yourself?
I didn't expect you would be up so early. It's but 5.
I was out in the air by 4:30.
Oh, what lovely flowers you're holding. Did you gather them near here?
But look around you, Mr. Dacier.
I confess I did not notice them in the grass.
These are plucked to be sent to my invalid friend who cannot travel. You've met Lady Dunstane?
I think I have seen her somewhere once.
Ah, she's the woman of the largest heart now beating. Her one fault is an extreme humility that makes her always place second to me. And as I am apt to gabble, I take the lead and I am froth in comparison. Court her, if ever you come across her. Or have you a man's horror of women with brains?
Am I expressing it? And it saddens me to think I shall not long have the pleasure of walking beside you and hearing you. I had letters at Lugano. My uncle is unwell, I hear.
Lord Dannisburgh?
Yes.
'Tis not a grave illness.
I rather fear it.
You had the news at Lugano?
Yes, but I can be of no service, which is why I did not go then.
Oh, you ought indeed to be in England.
I thought it better to wait for later reports. I shall drive to Lugano this afternoon, act on the information I get there. Probably ends my holiday.
If I may be permitted to say it, you should be with your party now, aside from your uncle's illness. The times are troublous, and not for holidays. These corn law agitations.
Oh, but the subject of politics in a spot like this is discordant.
Politics everywhere. They're not discord to me.
But not the last day, the last hour.
Well, only do not forget your assurance to me that you would give some thoughts to Ireland and the cause of women.
If it means the chance of serving you, you may trust in me.
By the time Diana Warwick returned to London, her first literary attempt had become a great success. And wishing to meet the world on equal terms after a long dependency, she incurred the burden of a costly household. Her little dinners were attended by the elect of London. But, as always with a wit and beauty, there was a group who dispensed with Mrs. Warwick. Dispensed with and disliked her. And it's hardly surprising that most of this group were women.
Oh, yes. I met her once. Though I confess I'm not one of the fanatics about Mrs. Warwick.
Oh, she has a sort of skill in getting men to clamor. It is a way of winning a reputation.
Oh, yes, she has good looks. Judging from what I hear and have seen, her thirst is for notoriety.
Yes. And she has the secret of dressing well in the French fashion.
It was in the spring of the year that Lord Dannisburgh finally succumbed to his long illness at his residence in Hampshire. And his dying wish had been that Mrs. Warwick would sit with him for an hour one night before the nails were put in his coffin.
Who is it?
Mrs. Warwick?
Mr. Dacier?
I've just come. I did not expect I should still find you here.
There's a chair.
You've been watching? You must be tired.
No.
An hour was asked. Only one.
I could not leave him. He was a dear, dear friend.
You have been sitting here alone since 11. It is now 5.
I've not found it long.
You have not suffered?
Oh, no.
You have seen death before?
I sat by my father 4 nights. I was a girl then. I cried till I had no more tears.
You were very good to come. We must all thank you for fulfilling his wish.
He knew it would be my wish. My train starts at 6. It is a walk of 35 minutes to the station. Perhaps I
You
should...
walked here in the dark, alone?
There was no carriage to be had. The station master sent one of his porters with me.
If you must really go by the early train, I will drive you.
No. I prefer to walk.
Then I shall walk with you.
It is not necessary for you to come.
I think of myself. I gain something every step I walk with you.
Today is Thursday. The funeral is...
Monday. According to his directions, he will lie in the churchyard of his village.
I know. He spoke of this quiet little resting place.
Yes, it's a good end. I do not wonder at his wish for the honor you have done him.
It is not an honor, but a friend's duty.
What capacity for love. You love with a full heart when you love.
I love my friends.
I envy those who are numbered among them.
They're not many.
They should be grateful.
Ah, there's the station ahead.
Permit me to accompany you to town. I beg it. You shall not be worried by talk.
No. I came alone and return alone.
But may I call upon you?
You would be welcome.
To tell you of his funeral.
Do not fail to come.
Upon the guest list of Mrs. Warwick, the name of Percy Dacier became more and more frequent. They were often seen strolling through the park together of a pleasant afternoon. And when Mrs. Warwick's new book, The Young Minister of State, was published, the hero was easily identified and caused talk in many circles, as well as great concern to those who had the interest of Miss Constance Asper at heart. There was one particular conversation between Miss Asper's uncle and Lady Wathen.
Frankly, Lady Wathen, I'm worried about Constance. It's that fellow or nobody for
Oh? How does he act toward Constance lately?
He plays fast and loose, warm and cold. I'm ready to settle 20 times a nobleman's dowry on my niece. And she's a fine girl, an handsome girl.
Oh, exceptional.
Educated up to the brim, fit to queen it in the drawing room. But he holds her by some arts that don't hold him, it seems. He's all for politics.
Oh, Constance cannot be duped so far, I should think.
How do you mean?
Everything points to one secret of his conduct.
A woman?
I fear so.
No. The fellow's as cold as a fish.
Oh, flattery will do anything.
Well, what about her?
You've heard of her, Mrs. Warwick.
Warwick? Oh, of course. Quite a talk about her once, and Lord Dannisburgh.
The same. Would you consider me a busybody? Were I to try to mitigate this woman's evil influence? I love dear Constance. I should be so happy to serve her.
I want my girl married. He's got first-rate prospects, good family, good sober fellow. At least I thought so. He suits me. She liking him?
Oh, she admires him, I'm sure.
Admires? She's dead set on the fellow. Another conversation on the same subject, though treated quite differently, occurred between Diana and Lady Dunstane.
Even in my seclusion here at Coxley, the news of how well your book is selling has reached me, Tony. I'm so happy for you.
The public's been very kind, Emmy.
The public does not buy books as favors.
Do you approve the book, Emmy?
I think it is the best you have done. Excellent in description. The young minister lives on every page.
I'm glad.
Perhaps you drew him too distinctly, Tony.
But why?
I suppose the young minister of state is Mr. Percy Dacier.
Between ourselves, he is.
I'm afraid everyone guesses that, Tony.
I'm glad they do.
You write admiringly of him.
And I do admire him. So would you, Emmy, if you knew him as well as I do. He pairs with Mr. Redworth. He also is a friend of women, but he lifts us to rather a higher level of intellectual friendship. In that respect, no young man was ever comparable with him. And I'm encouraged to flatter myself that he unbends to me more than to others.
He is engaged, or partly, I hear. Why does he not marry?
I would he would. Perhaps something will develop when he's less busy, during the Easter recess.
During the Easter recess, Diana stole away to the coast of Normandy to be alone with her writing for a short time. But on the third day of her stay, she had an unexpected caller.
Mr. Dacier.
Mrs. Warwick, I beg your pardon for intruding. I had to see you.
But how did you
Lady
know?
Escott spoke of the place.
Oh, Lady Escott should not have betrayed me.
She did it inadvertently, without an idea of my profiting by it.
You left Lady Escott well?
Lady Escott, I think, was well. I had to see you.
A letter would have reached me.
I would have had to wait for an answer. I miss you now as if today.
You do me the honor to like my Sunday evenings?
Beyond everything London can offer. Please, shall I ever be privileged to speak your Christian name?
My Christian name? It is pagan. In one sphere, I am Hecate. Remember that.
I am not among the people who regard you so.
The time may come.
Diana.
Diana Warwick still considered herself a Diana of coldness. She felt she stood on land. That was true. But without knowing it, she stood on a cliff of the land, with troubled seas below and about her.
Diana of the Crossways by George Meredith is one of the world's great novels, brought to you each week by the NBC University of the Air. Listen next week to the third episode of Diana of the Crossways, and remember that countless fine books are to be had in your local public library. To enhance your enjoyment of this series, we recommend the Handbook of the World's Great Novels, which you may obtain by sending 25 cents to World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. That's Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27. Diana of the Crossways is adapted for radio by Agnes Eckhart. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom, and the orchestra was directed by Bernard Berquist. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. Geraldine Kay is featured as Diana. The narrator is Jonathan Howell. Lady Emma is played by Alma Plott. Mr. Redworth by Larry Alexander. Mr. Dacier by Ken Nordine. Lady Watson by Hilda Graham. And Mr. Quinton by Arthur Peterson. Others were Jean Juvelier, Minion Schreiber, and Charles Mountain. This is John Conrad. This program comes to you from Chicago and is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
This is Chesterton Radio, the true, good, and beautiful at chestertonradio.com.
The world's great novel. The work of a man who wrote prose as if it were poetry, endeavoring to pack every phrase with imaginative meaning and to make his characters live at full speed in a fantastic world in which only the unexpected happens. NBC's University of the Air brings you the third in a four-part version of George Meredith's Diana of the Crossways, another in our series of books that live the world's great novel.
There is scarcely any realm of life in which Dame Gossip does not speak her part. But with the elect of London during the early part of the 19th century, her role was paramount. And the stories upon which she generally fed concerned a lady as famous for her wit and charm as for her extraordinary beauty.
It is known fact that Diana Murray's father left her poorly sick. She connived her way into society by winning influential friends.
But Lady Emma Dunstane has been her friend since childhood. And Lady Dunstane is a woman of discernment.
Oh, yes. I'll admit her attachment is singular. But it's plain to me she married Mr. Warwick simply because he was a tenant of her home, the Crossways.
The marriage was a mistake from the beginning. When a woman so far surpasses her husband and makes friends with the influence...
Oh, you're referring to that affair with Lord Dannisburgh.
Affair is not the word. He was old enough to be Mrs. Warwick's father, and they were simply very good friends.
Well, of course, it was because of Lord Dannisburgh that Mr. Warwick filed his suit against her.
It was because Warwick was consumed with jealousy and had listened to vicious rumors. So that matter should be settled by now. since the court decided in Diana's favor for lack of evidence and refused Warwick the divorce.
The matter isn't settled in my mind, I'll tell you.
What?
She has a passion for men in politics. Now that Lord Dannisburgh is dead, she's following the same course as his nephew, the Honourable Mr. Percy Dacier.
Well, you're presuming on the fact that Mrs. Warwick's latest novel, The Young Minister of State, was fashioned after Mr. Dacier.
That and the fact that he's a frequent guest at his next dinner.
Oh, Diana had many friends and honest admirers. Mr. Dacier is one of them.
But if that's all there is to their relationship, why has Mr. Dacier kept Constance Asper dangling for over a year?
A worthy matter for speculation. Miss Asper is heiress to a king's ransom, and money is a necessity to Mr. Dacier's political career.
Did it ever occur to you that Mr. Dacier might not wish to marry Miss Asper?
Oh, poppycock. Their engagement is about to be announced when he met Mrs. Warwick. And since then, he's left the poor girl withering on the vine.
Well, I understand that Lady Wharton, who has a great interest in Miss Asper, as well as being a friend of Mr. Warwick, has undertaken to effect a reconciliation between Mrs. Warwick and her husband, thereby solving the whole problem.
Never. Diana would not take back the man who has so maligned her.
Oh, but they say Mr. Warwick's health is very poor. Perhaps she'd be moved by compassion.
Oh, I wonder.
Well, we shall see.
It was conversation such as this one, held in the cellar of London, that caused Percy Dacier to interrupt the privacy of Diana Warwick's Easter vacation at Carr.
Mr. Dacier.
I had to see you. I heard a story in London. Is there a foundation for it?
No.
Oh, it would have made a change in my life, a gap. There is no truth in it, then? That you and your husband...
There have been overtures.
Your happiness, I hope, is the chief thought in such a case. Though I can't quite forget my own.
You compliment an ambitious hostess.
Since you wish to keep the solitude of your holiday, I have but a few minutes with you. May I... shall I ever be privileged to speak your Christian name?
My Christian name? It is pagan. In one sphere, I am Hecate. Remember that.
I am not among the people who so regard you.
The time may come.
Diana.
Constance.
I owe no allegiance whatever to the name of Constance.
Keep to the formal title with me. We are Mrs. Warwick and Mr. Dacier. I think I am 2 years younger than you. Socially, therefore, 10 in seniority. And I know how this flower of friendship is nourished and may be withered. You see, by coming here, you've already cast me on the discretion of my maid. I suppose her trustworthy, but I'm at her mercy. A breath from her to the people beholding me as Hecate, Queen of Witches, and I should be ruined.
In that event, the least I can offer is my full life.
We will not conjecture the event. You are a prominent man before the world with greater heights to reach. England may condone old sins for present services, but it will not have present sins to flout it. We part as the plainest of sincere good friends.
Back in London, Mr. Dacier continued to be a frequent guest at Diana's dinners, and his behavior gave her no reason for alarm. They were, as she has said, the simplest of good friends. Therefore, Diana was shocked to find a slight tremble within her one afternoon when she sat with a friend.
If I am disturbing your writing, my dear, please send me away without a moment's hesitation.
Certainly not, Lady Pennon. I welcome the excuse to quit it. You look as if you have some interesting news from the outside world.
Well, I do. So you probably know it already. There's little I can tell you. But I heard this afternoon that the marriage of Percy Dacier and Constance Asper has been definitely fixed.
No, I had not heard.
I thought she might have told you, since you're such friends.
Where did you hear it?
I had it from a lady who met Miss Asper at one of Lady Wharton's assemblies. She considers the great heiress extraordinarily handsome.
A golden miracle. Good looks and gold together are rather superhuman. I trust that the report may this time be true.
The next afternoon, the card of Lady Watson requested Mrs. Warwick to grant her a private interview. They touched fingers and sat. The preliminaries to the matter of the interview were brief.
You come to me on business, Lady Watson?
It may be so, Turn. I come to lay certain facts before you, which I think you should know. We think it better that an acquaintance and one of your sex should take the case to you, instead of having recourse to formal intermediaries, lawyers.
Lawyers?
Well, my husband is a lawyer, you know. In the course of his professional vocation, he became acquainted with Mr. Warwick. We have latterly seen a great deal of him. He is, I regret to say, seriously ill.
I have heard of it.
He has no female relatives, it appears. He needs more care than he can receive from hirelings.
Are you empowered by him, Lady Watson?
I am, Mrs. Warwick. We will not waste time in apology. He is most anxious for a reconciliation. It seems to my husband and to me the most desirable thing for all parties concerned, if you can be induced to regard it in that light. The estrangement is quite undoubtedly the cause of his illness.
I agree with his condition. His proposal has already been made and replied to.
You will not lend an ear to an intercession?
I will not.
Of course, Mrs. Warwick. It is not for me to hint at things that lawyers could say on the subject.
Your forbearance is creditable, Lady Watson.
Believe me, Mrs. Warwick, the step is. I speak in my husband's name as well as my own. Strongly to be advised.
If I hear one more word of it, I leave the country.
I should be sorry indeed at any piece of rashness depriving your numerous friends of your society. I have not attempted to appeal to your feelings, Mrs. Warwick.
I thank you warmly, Lady Watson, for what you have done.
Our life below is short.
True.
We have our little term, Mrs. Warwick. It is soon over.
On the other hand, the platitudes concerning it are eternal.
Permit me to say that I feel deeply for your husband.
I'm glad of Mr. Warwick's having friends.
They cannot behold him perishing without an effort on his behalf. He will question me, Mrs. Warwick.
You can report to him our conversation, Lady Watson.
Would you? It is your husband's most earnest wish. Would you consent to meet him at my house?
It has already been asked, Lady Watson, and refused.
Is it not, pardon me, a wife's duty, Mrs. Warwick, at least to listen?
Lady Watson, I have listened to you. Let me thank you for bringing to an end a mission that must have been unpleasant to you.
But you will meditate on it, Mrs. Warwick? Give me that assurance.
I shall not forget it. Good day, Lady Watson.
A few mornings later, at an early hour for London, Diana's maid entered her room to announce that Mr. Percy Dacier was below and begged an audience. As she dressed, the suspicion of his having come to impart the news of his approaching marriage endowed Diana with sovereign calmness. She descended the stairs, revolving phrases of happy congratulations upon the marriage ties.
Forgive me for calling so early, but you've heard?
Heard? What?
I'm in danger of losing you.
But I don't understand.
Your husband has started a process of law. He's determined to get you back. Come, let us cut the knot. Be brave. Be yourself. I've waited. Nothing but the dread of losing you sets me speaking now. Trust me. Make me master of your fate.
But my friend.
I wish I had the trick of courting, but there's not time. And I'm a simpleton at the game. We can start this evening. Once away, we leave it to them to settle the matter. And then you are free and mine to the death. Whether your husband wins his case or not, it will hang over you, and you will be perpetually tormented. Why waste your whole youth and mine as well? I am bound to you as much as if we had stood at the altar, where we will stand together the instant you are free.
But think what people would say.
Let them shout their worst. The bark of the day, and you won't hear it. Half a year, and it will be over. And I shall bring you back, the husband of the noblest bride in Christendom. Tell me you don't doubt my honor.
Not at all, but I must think.
Diana.
Not that name. It is what my husband calls me.
Lady Dunstane calls you Tony.
He is my dearest and oldest friend.
You and I don't count by years. You are the dearest to me on earth, Tony.
Oh, Percy, are we mad?
Not mad. We take what is ours.
You've reckoned it all like a sane man? Family, position, the world, the scandal?
All. I am long known that you were to make for me. You have to weather a gale, Tony. It won't last, my dearest. I regret the trial for you, but I shall be with you, burning for the day to reinstate you and show you the queen you are.
Oh, Percy, I'm the deadest of burdens. It means that your enemies will raise a cry, realize it. You may still be my friend. I shall forget this bit of wildness.
The burden that you have to bear outweighs mine out of all comparison. The woman is always the victim. That is why I have held myself off so long.
Have you thought of the consequences for yourself, your career?
Of course,
It means perhaps the blighting of the most promising life in England.
Promising? Without you to share it, you know how you inspire me. I'm really less than half myself without you. If I am to do anything in the world, it must be with you beside
Well,
me.
then wait 3 days, deliberate. Oh, try to know yourself. Let your clear reason guide you. 3 days.
How long has it been since we talked that morning in Italy?
Any
Date my deliberation from that day. So it must be tomorrow.
My dear, I will not say that. I'm yours if it is your wish. Let it be tomorrow.
Honey.
Here I'm weak. I cannot even write. I feel a culprit, but I'm sure I have courage, perhaps brains to help. At any rate, I may say this. I bring no burden to my love he does not know.
I know a place on a piece of the maritime Alps. Exquisite in the summer. Pastures at our feet in the Mediterranean below.
Oh, my dear.
Tomorrow night we start. Shall I call here?
No.
Well, then, at the railway station, southeastern for Paris, say 20 minutes to 8. I have your pledge you will come.
Yes, I'll be there, Percy.
Shall I put your luggage aboard, sir?
No, just set it here by this lamppost. I'm waiting for someone.
Right, sir.
Here.
Oh, thank you kindly, sir. What train will you be taking?
The 8th to Paris.
Oh, well, you're in ample time, sir. Good night.
Good night.
Yes, sir?
2 first-class tickets on the southeastern for Paris.
Yes, sir.
I should like 2 separate compartments, please.
Righto, sir. I have 2 very nice compartments here. Will that be a return, sir?
No, one way. Oh, excuse me. Here's your money.
Oh, you forgot your time, sir.
Tony, you...
Oh!
Oh, I beg your pardon. I thought you were someone else. The fog. I beg your pardon.
Still waiting, sir?
Yes, do you have the time? I'd like to check my watch.
7 to 8. I have, sir.
So have I. The fog will cause traffic blocks tonight.
Oh, fancy so, sir. Beastly sick. Hope you don't miss your train, though. Southeastern leaves on the stroke, eh?
No, I shan't miss it. Oh, there you are, Tony. I was afraid I was...
Sir?
Oh, I beg your pardon. So sorry. I thought... The fog makes it hard to see.
I say, what's wrong with that fellow? Racing out to meet every carriage and pair.
Mind the door. Take your seats, please. The southeastern for Paris. Take your seats, please. Better get aboard of your game, sir.
Couldn't you wait a few more minutes? I'm sure...
Sorry, sir. It's pulling out. You'd better get aboard, sir, if you're going.
No, I'm not going.
Yes, sir? Yes, sir?
I came to inquire if there is any truth in the report that Mrs. Warwick is ill.
Not to my knowledge, sir. Well as could be last I saw of her.
The last you saw of her?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Warwick left home sometime after 6 o'clock with a gentleman.
You wouldn't happen to know who the gentleman...
No, I couldn't tell you that, sir. William the footman let him in. Perhaps Mrs. Danvers, Mrs. Warwick's maid, could tell you that, sir.
Could I speak with Mrs. Danvers, please?
I'm afraid you can't, sir. Mrs. Danvers has gone to a play with William.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, sir.
Danvers.
Oh, why, Mr. Dacier.
I trust I didn't startle you.
Oh, no, sir. I have just been to see a play.
Yes, I've been waiting to see you. I understood that Mrs. Warwick was ill.
Ill, sir?
Yes, and when I came to inquire, the parlour-maid told me she'd gone out.
My mistress is not at all unwell, though it is true enough that she went out. My mistress was just on the point of starting for Paris and the continent when Mr. Redworth arrived with the alarming news that Lady Dunstane was about to undergo an operation under the surgeons at Copsley.
Oh.
Mr. Redworth, being such a friend to both of them, knew that Mrs. Warwick would want to be by Lady Dunstane's side.
Yes.
And lucky it was that Mr. Redworth came just when he did. For another 3 minutes and Mrs. Warwick would have been gone. She was quite set on this trip to Paris, though why, I do not know.
Thank you, Danvers. Here. Thank you very much.
Why, you're very welcome, Mr. Dacier. But there is no call to... Oh, and so much.
No, Danvers. You're quite entitled to it. Good night. I don't mean to intrude, Sir Lucan. I only wanted to inquire after your wife.
Oh, what a good fellow you were to come, Dacier. Now's the time to know your friends. Like Redworth and Diana Warwick. She's true as steel. I offered to stand by. She chased me out. Diana's staying in there, and she's worth 50 of me. And I know she shrinks from the sight of blood. Next to my wife, you may take my word for it, Dacier. Diana Warwick is the pick of living women.
Yes,
I could prove it over and over. She's the loyalest woman anywhere. Her one error was that marriage of hers. How she ever pitched herself into it, none of us can guess. Look at your watch.
Nearly 20 minutes gone since the time you said they took her in.
Oh, and they said it would only take 10. They're afraid to send out word. Both surgeons gave me their word of honor there was a chance. A chance. But it's the end of me, if Emmy. No. The night's enough. Don't let her be killed.
Mrs. Warwick is coming.
Diana, tell me.
It's over. All well.
They saved Emmy, do you think?
It looks well, and the worst is over.
Oh, Emmy.
Now, you must control yourself, Sir Lucan, if you wish to go in to see her for a moment.
Oh, yes. Yes. I shall be quiet. Quiet and calm.
You're not ill? You're strong?
Oh, strong. I held her hand through it. I thought I was a coward, but I would have changed places with her to save her.
I do hope she survives.
You shall hear regularly. The suspense must last for days. It is a question of vital power to bear the shock.
You shall stay close by her?
Day and night. My only wish is that she recovers to the point that I may be of service in nursing her for as long as she needs.
I understand. I have a carriage and go back immediately.
He shall hear of your coming. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Lady Dunstane improved slowly but steadily through the winter, so that by May she was able to enjoy a quiet sailing trip with Diana. When Emma was able to examine her correspondence, Diana brought her the lot of it, in which was her own farewell letter, written the night she planned to leave with Dacier. She could have destroyed it, but she preferred her friend to know the whole truth about her.
Tony, darling, I cannot chide you for having a woman's heart. The danger is over now, Annie. You have weathered it. I love him more than ever, but nothing desperate. No, nothing desperate. But you love him. I do. And because of that, I will not let him be fettered to me. You will see him again. Do not imagine that his persuasions undermine your Tony. I'm not subject to panic. What brought you to the decision to go away with him? My husband first. Lady Worthing came as a peacemaker. And then Percy came. Oh, he loved me. Or did then. And I fancied I could serve Percy. My vanity was the chief traitor. Cowardice, of course, played a part. That was when Mr. Redworth arrived. Seems I'm always at Crossways, and he rescues me. When I think of it, I perceive that Patience is our beneficent fairy godmother, who brings us our harvests in the long results. I fear I was born godmotherless. You have stores of patience, Tony. Only now and then, fits of desperation. Well, I
I can say here that after one rescue, a similar temptation is unlikely to master me. He and I have ceased to write letters. You may have faith in me.
I have with my whole soul.
Upon her return to London, Diana found her life upsetting in many ways. Percy she had still neither written to nor heard from, and she fancied a wish to have tidings of his marriage. It would be peace, even if desolation. The work on her third novel was going slowly, while her debts increased rapidly, and her length of absence from London had vexed many of her friends. For example, Mr. Tonan, the great newspaper editor.
How can you expect to be queen of the London salon if you lose touch of the topics?
You mean, Mr. Tonan, it renders my services less to you?
Candidly, yes. Everything you now know of men and affairs is stale to me.
How do you get to the secret?
By sticking to the center of them.
But how do you manage to be in advance at the profit?
Because I will have these secrets at any price, and that is known.
Perhaps I shall apply to you on some occasion.
I should hope for nothing better. You, if anyone, can tap the fountainhead of news.
And I shan't hide from you that I am in dire need of money. I'm seriously considering Mr. Redworth's advice of giving up my expensive London household and devoting myself purely to literature.
You have not made a definite decision?
Oh, I shall give it ample thought.
Then we can at least count on your presence at Lady Singleby's garden party.
I shall be there.
Both Mrs. Warwick and Mr. Dacier are here. I rather imagine everyone here has noticed it. I've been watching them. They haven't yet spoken.
Well, he hasn't been a guest at her home since her return to London. Perhaps the whole thing's blown over.
Oh, I wish I knew.
Oh, she looks exquisite in that yellow robe and black bonnet. Like a garden butterfly. Look. I wonder what they're thinking.
Beauty of the day tempts you at last, Mrs. Warwick.
I've been finishing a piece of writing.
I look forward to reading it. Lovely weather for a garden party.
Exceedingly.
Will you join me for a slight stroll?
Well, I really should. Very well.
It's nearly a year since we last met.
I've been nursing nearly all the time, doing the work I do best.
Are you unaltered?
A year leaves its mark.
Tell me.
You speak of a mad woman, a good 11 months dead.
But
let her rest. Those are the conditions.
Accepted, if I may see it.
Honestly accepted.
Imposed fatally, I have to own. I have thought you were the wiser, but admitting that, surely we can meet. I may see you.
My house has not been shut.
I respected the house. I distrusted myself.
What restores your confidence?
The strength I draw from you. I may see you.
Come whenever you think I can be useful.
They pressed hands at parting, firmly and briefly. Not in the ordinary manner of lovers, but in a sign of a treaty of friendship. But instead of giving up her London life, Diana soon learned she had tied herself to her costly household.
Diana of the Crossways by George Meredith is one of the world's great novels, brought to you each week by the NBC University of the Air. Listen next week to the final episode of Diana of the Crossways. And don't forget that your local public library can be the source of countless hours of entertainment and instruction. To enhance your enjoyment of this series, we recommend the Handbook of the World's Great Novels, which you may obtain by sending 25 cents to the World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. That's Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. Diana of the Crossways is adapted for radio by Agnes Eckhart. The music was composed by Amos Soderstrom, and the orchestra was directed by Bernard Berquist. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. Geraldine Kay is featured as Diana. The narrator is Jonathan Hole. Percy Dacier is played by Ken Nordine. Emma by Alma Platt. Sir Lucan by Donald Gallagher. Lady Watson by Hilda Graham. Lady Pennon by Mignon Schreiber. And Danvers by Jean Jubileer. Others were Arthur Peterson, Ruth Shames, and Lee Young. This is John Conrad. And this program comes to you from Chicago and is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. The Red Feather Services of the Community Chest do more than just give groceries and money to families who are in need. They also help support the YMCA and the YWCA in their fight against juvenile delinquency. Red Feather contributions go to maternity clinics to aid in the fight for healthier babies, and the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts who are helping adolescents, and scores of other civic organizations which benefit from your dollars contributed to the community chest. Giving is a part of living. Give to the community chest. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
National Broadcasting Company brings you the last chapter in a 4-part version of George Meredith's Diana of the Crossways. Another in our series of books that live the world's great novels.
Our story concerns the fashionable circles of early 19th century London, where wit, culture, and politics held sway, and where deep and lasting friendships between women were rare indeed. But the affection that existed between the brilliant and beautiful Diana Murray Warwick and Lady Emma Dunstane was as sincere as it was unusual. Because of Lady Dunstane's ill health, she spent most of her time at her country estate of Copsley, and depended upon her husband's frequent visits to London to keep her informed of the activities of the social world in which Diana Warwick, Tony to Lady Dunstane, played a leading part.
Luton, you have a most annoying way of trying to conceal from me facts about Tony which you think would worry me.
Are you referring to some particular thing, my dear?
I am referring to Mr. Percy Dacier. I fear Tony allows him to monopolize her time.
Well, I suppose that depends on how one looks at it, Emma. Diana's very interested in politics. And Mr. Dacier, being a minister of state, they find each other's company very pleasant, I imagine. It's true that she gives dinner parties for Dacier and his friends almost nightly, dinners that will help him politically or socially, but I'm sure that Diana would keep her behavior with Dacier strictly platonic.
Oh, yes, I have Tony's pledge to that.
Huh? Oh, well, then, what's disturbing you?
Tony admitted to me a year ago when I was so ill that she loved Percy Dacier and he loved her. She even considered going away with him.
Great heavens. Doesn't that woman realize what that would mean? Warwick's an impossible creature, and I don't blame her for refusing to live under the same roof with him, but they are still bound by marriage.
I think Tony's first consideration was that it would ruin Dacier's career.
Doesn't surprise me. She's always putting those she loves before herself.
But the eyes of London are on Tony. Unless I am greatly mistaken, the tongues of London are now wagging about her and Dacier.
Not everyone talks. Diana has her staunch admirers. But there is a large group who chatter. There's the matter of that wealthy heiress, you know, Constance Asper, niece of Quinton Manx, the ship owner. Tremendously wealthy, and they say she's been waiting for Dacier to marry her for 3 years.
Well, I wish he'd go ahead and do it.
No, Dacier can't see another woman for Diana.
But I don't think Percy Dacier would be the right man for Tony, even if she were to marry. She deserves a different, a stronger person.
Thomas Redwood?
Naturally, I was thinking of him. He has worshipped her since the first night they met when she was a girl of 18. And he has wealth, position.
All of that. But I fear, my dear, that Diana feels only friendship for the man. In fact, I doubt she suspects that he feels anything else.
Sir Lucan's words were fact indeed. To the steadfast, inscrutable Redworth, Diana turned as a trusting friend. And as the depths of the upkeep of her costly home increased, it was he whom she consulted.
If I seem abrupt this afternoon, Mr. Redworth, I must beg your forgiveness. I've never been able to discuss business matters with social ease.
Oh, there's certainly no cause for apology, but you said business?
Yes. Simply, it is that I've decided to sell the Crossways.
Your birthplace?
The home you love so deeply?
Now, I'll admit it would have gone to my heart once. Either I've lost my affection for the place or I've gotten over my Irish superstitions.
Oh, I see.
I wondered if you would undertake to find a purchaser for the Crossways.
I'm happy to be of service to you in any way.
And now that I've determined to part with the old place, why, the sooner the better. It will be a relief.
Tell me, Mrs. Warwick, how is your latest novel progressing?
Slowly, I fear. It's a difficult subject.
I marvel that you find the time to do your writing.
And often when I have the time, there seems to be no thought.
But you are working on it.
By fits and starts. Oh, I almost forgot, Mr. Redworth.
Yes?
I've mislaid my receipts and must ask you for the address of your wine merchant. Or would you place the order for me? Several dozen of the same wines. I can trust him to be in awe of you, and the good repute of my table depends on his honesty.
Within a week, to Diana's great relief, news came that a hermit bachelor, an acquaintance of Mr. Redworth, had purchased the Crossways at an excellent sum, and the money had been paid into her bank. And so, closing her mind to the fact that this sum represented the last of her capital, Diana swept through the following months with lavish entertainments. Late one afternoon, she was surprised by the arrival of Lady Dunstane at her door.
But, Emmy, not even to tell me you were coming. I planned it so. My hotel is Maitland. Excellent. Oh, but you must stay with me. I have much room. I know, dear. But I fear I should be a clog and fret you. Oh, such a thing for you to say. I'll be happier at the hotel. You have to write, and you so often entertain at night.
Yes, I have been entertaining a great deal lately. But the reason for that is that Percy is harassed and requires enlivening. These corn law agitations. He relaxes, at least in the evenings here. He brings his friends. My house is open to them if it amuses him. But
Tony...
I know what you're going to say, Emmy. But I no longer care what the world says. I know I'm doing the right and honest thing, and I owe Percy too much not to help him.
Well, perhaps the world will soon cease wagging its tongue. You're speaking of... I've heard Mr. Warwick is not well.
The poor man is better, able to go about his affairs, and I am honestly relieved. I may not be a sister of charity, but I'm not a vulture hovering for someone to die. As for me, I do not look ahead. I serve as kind of secretary to Percy. I labor at making abstracts by day, and at night preside at my supper table.
But is he worthy of such devotion, Tony?
Your devotion. He is absolute worthiness. He is the prince of men. We women miss life only when we have to confess we've never met the man to reverence.
Of course, I think of you, Tony, not Mr. Dacier. And I wonder if my girl perhaps gives in excess of what is given in return.
It is expected of our sex.
How your views have changed, Tony.
How I have changed, I admit it. I'm the busy bee at the window pane, content simply to have known him.
The work of the busy bee at the window pane continued through a highly social winter, her novel still unfinished. And after one of her usual dinners, she sat at her desk and forced herself to look at her bank book. Credit presented many blank pages, while debit had reached untold proportions. She compressed her lips and was about to make another attempt at writing when her maid announced that Mr. Dacier had returned and apologized for the late hour.
Have you forgotten to tell me anything I ought to know?
Yes, I returned. But tell me first. You were slightly under a shadow this evening. Dejected.
Did I so it?
To me, you did.
It was nothing, a knot in the book I'm writing. But you?
Shall I tune you with good news? I think it will excuse me for coming back.
Very good news?
Brave news.
Then it concerns you.
Me, you, the country.
Oh, I can guess. But tell me, it relates to your chief?
He has decided.
Oh, when did you hear?
He informed me of his final decision this afternoon.
No more compromises?
Total repeal of the Corn Law.
Oh, it's almost too wonderful to believe. At last, Ireland shall have her chance.
I've not made too much of it.
Oh, indeed you've not.
So Tony is no longer dejected.
Oh, a high wind will make a dead leaf fly like a bird. Now I do feel proud. I've longed for it, to have you leading the country. You will be soon now. The work was yours.
I've never seen you so radiant, Tony.
No, don't see. No.
You see, Tony, my dearest, I'm flesh and blood after all.
You forced me to be ice.
But how long do you expect to keep me in this rag puppet state of suspension?
We must have patience.
Dangling and swinging day and night?
Oh, a day will come.
You must imagine me superhuman.
I only know I worship you.
I can't be other than a mortal lover, Tony. I'm sorry.
Now, not a word of pardon. The hour's getting late. Come tomorrow and we shall talk more rationally.
Very well, but Tony...
Tomorrow. Good night, Percy.
In the morning, the act of waking was for Dacier an immediate recovery of his emotional rapture of the night before. He walked briskly to his breakfast table, where his letters and papers had been laid for his perusal.
Nothing of vital importance among the letters. I'll glance through Mr. Tonan's journal first. I must read the papers of opponents more carefully than those of friendly editors. And Tonan's is tricky, surprising now and... what's this? We have it on reputable authority that the Prime Minister will introduce total repeal of the Corn Law. Why, where could the fellow have gotten hold of that? Where?
And Percy Dacier, full of anxiety, left his breakfast untasted and dashed from the house. As he raced down the steps, he nearly collided with Mr. Quinton Manx, Constance Asper's uncle.
Young fellow, not so fast. I'd have a word with you.
Oh, Mr. Manx, I don't intend rudeness, but I must be off. My regards to Miss Asper.
I've got to talk to you. I want to know if there's anything in that article of Tonan's this morning. I read it at breakfast and it choked me. I told my niece Constance...
Mr. Manx, I'm not responsible for newspaper articles.
I'm a senior gentleman and a landowner, and no minister intending to sell the country is going to treat me as sheep. I want to know if he intends total repeal.
I'm sorry, I can't discuss it. I must keep an appointment.
If I let you go, will you come and lunch with me and Constance at 2? Will you?
Yes, only please excuse me now.
At 2 o'clock, mind?
You slept well, Percy?
Yes. And you?
I don't think I even dreamed. But... Percy, what's troubling you?
These journals. These everlasting journalists.
Is there anything to annoy you in the papers today?
You read Tonan's journal today?
I've not opened it.
The truth is, those fellows can now afford to buy right and left, corrupt every soul alive. There must have been a spy at the keyhole. I could swear it was not breathed to any ear but mine. Yet there it is in the morning paper in black and white.
What is?
The thing I told you last night. Printed in a leading article, loud as a trumpet. They've got the facts.
Oh, is it of such very great importance?
Secret of state, you ask strange questions. Personally, my conscience is clear. I never mentioned it. Couldn't have mentioned it to anyone but you. To tell you the truth, I'm brought to a dead stop.
Oh, Percy.
Oh, don't take it so much to heart, Tony. I simply came to be calmed by your presence for a while. Give me your hand.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't touch me. Don't you understand?
Understand?
Well, you did not name it as a secret. I did not imagine it to be a secret of immense or immediate importance.
What are you saying?
Well, I'd not a suspicion of doing harm, Percy.
What have you done?
I went... Oh, I can't account for it now.
You went where? To Tonan's?
Yes, to Tonan.
Why?
I went to him.
Well?
I went to him. Why? Well, he was constantly sneering at my stale information, and I knew he paid for reports.
Then you betrayed me.
Percy, no. I've not a suspicion of harm.
You sold me to a journalist.
But I thought it was a secret of a day. You did not tell me to keep it secret. A word from you would have been enough. I was in extremity.
What is the meaning of that? What extremity?
I had no means. I could not write. I saw my ruin coming.
Oh, you took payment for playing spy.
Oh.
Do me the favor to name the sum. I'm curious to learn what my imbecility was counted worth.
No sum was named.
Have I been bought for a song?
Oh, Percy, I was poor.
You could have applied to me.
For money? Never. Percy, I would have died rather than consciously betray you.
I've often wondered how newspaper men got their information. Money, women.
Percy, if you suspect I've uttered one word before last night, you're wrong.
I can never trust you again.
Percy.
So, goodbye.
Percy.
As he closed the door, Percy Dacier shut Diana out of his life completely. Toward 2 o'clock, he remembered his luncheon engagement with Quentin Manx and dreaded the political questions that would be put to him. So absorbed was he with his problems that he did not once think of the great owner's niece and heiress, Constance Asper, until she stepped into a drawing room to welcome him. Constance Asper, who had been waiting, hoping to marry him for 3 years. But he found the sight of her not at all unpleasant.
But now I say positively, Dacier, how about that article?
Oh, spare us the politics, dear Uncle.
Thank you.
Oh, come, you can say whether there's anything in it.
I should not say if I could.
You asked for cabinet secrets, Uncle. All secrets are holy, but secrets of state are under a seal next to divine.
Oh.
Next to divine. You are the mouthpiece of my ruling principle.
I'm not prying into secrets. All I want to know is whether there's any foundation for that article. All London's boiling about it.
Clearly, the oracle for you is the editor's office.
Have you heard the choir at St. Catherine's?
Not as yet, but I shall plan to next Sunday.
Oh, do.
You two seem to be a pair against me. Anyhow, I think it's important. People have been talking for some time.
Yes, have you been sketching lately?
I generally fill a book in the spring.
Oh, posh.
May I see it?
If you wish.
I should like to at once. These are charming. Really?
Well, thank you.
Why, a sketch of my country place.
You're good enough to see a likeness.
You've taken it from my favorite point of view.
I am glad.
How much I should like a copy?
Well, if you will accept that.
Oh, I could not rob you.
I can make a duplicate.
The look of the place pleases you?
Oh, yes. It is all impressively old English.
Does it look like a home to you?
No place more.
To me, it seems lonely.
Where I live, I feel no loneliness.
Would you consent to make the place less lonely to me if you love it?
The place?
Constance.
Is it true?
As you said, could it be other than true? This hand is mine?
Oh, Percy.
Borrowing from the world's poetry to describe them, the long prayed-for summer enveloped the melting snows. But Diana Warwick was cast into a dark coldness resembling death. At the same time as the announcement of the wedding, reported to be the grandest of the time, she received word that Augustus Warwick had died. When a fortnight passed and Lady Dunstane had still received no letter from Diana, she went to London.
Thank heaven you have come, Lady Dunstane. My mistress has been lying on a bed for days, refusing food and visitors.
I will go in alone.
You will find the room quite dark and very cold. She will not allow me to light the fire, and she will die if she does not take nourishment.
Tony. Tony? It is Emmy. Yes, my Tony, it is Emmy. Stay with you, never to leave you. I have been happy. It is not hard to go. You must not talk of such a thing, Tony.
I proved myself unworthy of him such a short time before we could have been united.
But does a man pretending to love a woman cut the ties between them with such a blow? Is not forgiveness part of love?
It is all my fault. You must let me die quietly.
My Tony will live to know happiness.
I have no more belief in it than
After many months at Copsley, with Emma's constant attention and friendship, Diana began to show interest in life again. And finally she came out of her dejection with a shrewder view of Dacier, though it was equally painful, for it killed her romance. In fact, now that she was at last free to find happiness in marriage, she scorned the thought of it. An example of this was a trip that Diana and Emma made with Mr. Redworth to the Crossways, he informing them that the new owner lent him the use of it.
I shall leave you ladies to be alone until dinner.
Thank you, Mr. Redworth.
I trust, Mrs. Warwick, you'll be back in your first home.
If I'd not...
Bye for now.
Tony, aren't you being a bit cruel with Mr. Redworth? How, Emmy? Oh, don't feign ignorance with me. Look about you. Mr. Redworth's servants in attendance. Obviously, he is the owner of the house. And he bought it to keep it exactly as you had it, and so he's done. Every room is filled with your knickknacks and possessions.
Since I did not ask Mr. Redworth to put himself to such trouble, I do not feel I owe him a debt.
He admires you so greatly, Tony.
Well, I wish he wouldn't. He has such an unbearably high of me. It hurts me. One may be too loftily respected, you know.
But you do like him.
I like him. That I can say. He is everything I am not. But now I'm free, Emmy, and the sense of being overesteemed imposes fetters, and I don't like them. I have been called a beauty. Rightly or otherwise, I have had a beauty's career, and a curious caged beast's life I have found it.
On their return to Copsley, Redworth was a constant visitor, and though Diana professed a humdrum friendship for him, she found his frequent visits somehow disturbing at times. And so, professing a desire to be alone more often, Diana rented a small cottage in the valley below Copsley. The next time Mr. Redworth called at Copsley...
Mr. Redworth, how nice to see you.
Oh, I trust you are sincere, Lady Dunstane. Sometimes I fear I endanger my welcome calling so often.
Oh, that would be impossible. But unfortunately, he was only my company today.
Oh?
Diana has left me. She's taken cottage lodging at Solesall, about an hour's walk.
I see.
One of her wild dreams of independence. Are you disappointed?
I am.
Diana's passing the day with the Pettigrews, who have taken a place near here for a month. She's promised to dine at Coxley if she returned in time.
Perhaps I might walk down to the valley for her and bring her back.
If you do not mind the walk, I should be indebted to you.
The walk I should enjoy even without Mrs. Warwick's company, but... well, it looks as if we'd have a lovely sunset for the journey back.
Oh, it was a wonderful walk we had yesterday, Emmy. Sol was in his glory. Mr. Redworth said he'd rarely seen so wonderful a sunset.
You seem to have been inspired by Sol, my dear. Oh, you do like him, don't you?
If you mean Sol, I adore him. If you mean the mortal man, I think him up to almost all your hyperboles, as far as men go. Not to admire him would argue me senseless, heartless.
And you make him the butt of your ridicule, Tony.
I don't really mean to. It is an honor to call him friend. And I do trust he will choose the pick among us to make her a happy woman, if she's for running in harness.
Oh, Tony, why are you this way? Don't you realize you are the only woman he could ever choose?
Emmy,
yes, you. It's to the woman he loves that he cannot show himself as he is, because he is at her feet.
But marriage, dear Emmy, Is marriage to be the end of me?
And are you feeling so particularly well by yourself?
Miserably. But I can dream. I wanted a hero, and the jeweled garb and feather do not suit him.
No, but here is a true man. And if you can find me any of your genuine heroes to match him, I will thank you. He came one day to ask me if I felt the sum he then had was enough to ask for your hand. And I had to tell him you were engaged.
Emily.
The man has never wavered in his love of you since that day. He has had something to bear.
And he bore it, Emily. Well. And he went on building a fortune. Whatever he does well. But, Emily, does he know everything about Dacia? I shall not have to go through that frightful...
He is a man with eyes awake. And, my darling, he trusts you. He loves you. Give yourself frankly. You see it clearly before you.
I do, and yet I'm frightened.
Your business is to accept life as we have it. He's coming by to escort you back to your cottage.
Oh, I know. And I almost feel like running the opposite way. Yes, Danvers?
Pardon, madam. Mr. Redworth has arrived.
Well, Emmy, here goes old Ireland.
This is quite a wind.
You foretold this gale.
Oh, well, it did not require a shepherd or a skipper for that.
Oh, your grand gift will be useful to a yachtsman.
Speaking of yachting, when I've tried my new schooner in the channel, she's at your command for as long as you and Lady Dunstane please.
But why should it be at our command?
Because I shall be in Ireland on government business.
Oh, we shall hardly feel safe without the weather-wise on board.
Oh, you may count on my man, Barn.
What is the name of the new schooner?
I took a liberty.
With whom?
I named her Diana.
I'm honored.
Oh, the wind is increasing.
Yes. Makes the footing a bit unsure. I'll take your arm if you'd let me.
Oh, please do. I'll keep these branches out of your way. Oh, be careful of that falling branch.
Yes.
I have you.
Oh. Thank you.
It's hard to keep to the terms of our talk yesterday on friendship.
I've forgotten it.
Have you? Have you changed toward me? Could you possibly?
What I cannot do is to submit to be seated on a throne with your positioning. As far as concerns this hand of mine, if you hold it worthy of you, it is yours.
Diana, my darling.
Oh, Thomas.
Diana, my own. We shall be married within a fortnight. Say we will.
Yes, Thomas. Yes.
Diana. Darling.
Diana of the Crossways by George Meredith is one of the world's great novels brought to you each week by the National Broadcasting Company. Listen next week to the first episode of a two-part radio edition of Silas Marner by George Eliot. And don't forget that your local public library can be the source of countless hours of entertainment and instruction. To enhance your enjoyment of this series, we recommend the Handbook of the World's Great Novels, which you may obtain by sending 25 cents to World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. That's Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27. Diana of the Crossways was adapted for radio by Agnes Eckhart. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom, and the orchestra was directed by Bernard Berkowitz. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. Geraldine Kay was featured as Diana. The narrator was Jonathan Hole. Emma was played by Alma Platt. Sir Lucan by Donald Gallagher. Persis Dacier by Ken Nordine. Thomas Redworth by Larry Alexander. Constance Asper by Martha McCain. Quentin Manx by Arthur Peterson. And Danvers by Jean Juvelier. And this is John Conrad. This program comes to you from Chicago and is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.